Good morning. Just in from a fresh box of the bench review, or a first run of this engine, which is an OS FS-52 Surpass engine, an engine I picked up from a fellow modeler yesterday. Did a quick look on this engine, so you can watch that video. Thing is nasty looking on the outside. It ran decent, but let's start looking at the inside. Now, as I said in the quick look video, quite a bit of carbon residue on the inside of that exhaust, and I see some pretty considerable exhaust or carbon residue on the stem. But yet, when I looked inside at the top of the piston, try and angle it so you can see it, I don't see much darkness there at all. It looks rather clean. So this is sort of an odd combination of things right now. The engine looks really war-torn, weather-torn, exposed to elements, because it's just nasty looking. I haven't seen an OS engine, the exterior, look quite this nasty in a long time. Even that nice black rocker cover is really pretty gross looking. Now that screw was not very tight. Get this carb off first. These screws show some signs of rust inside the cap. Oh boy, those are little bitty Phillips head screws. I usually hate these cross-point screws from OS because they're usually very soft and the heads strip out really easily. I got fortunate here. Okay, no gasket, although I feel there's a residue of some kind of silicon sealant, which I'd never like to see that. I mean, OS designs good engines. They have very intelligent engineers. Now, either this engine was not meant to have a gasket or it was lost, but putting silicone, look at that, putting silicone on this is just ridiculous. It should not need. Look at that silicone that was around the carb. That's just not recommended. It shouldn't need that at all. It feels like it's got a really nice grip there, so I mean that should seal fine. Alright, so now we can take this head off. Let's grab these push rods here real quick. They look okay, no damage. Okay, so 5 head screws. Ooh, that one doesn't feel like it. The head was a little bit wallered there. This is always one of the most nerve-wracking things, is trying to loosen head screws. You don't want to strip the head out of these. That one didn't seem very tight. The last one, okay, that didn't seem tight. Okay, so we're in good shape there. No stripped heads. It's always a good thing. This is where things start to get really interesting.
Wow, look at that. If you were just to judge by looking at the top of the piston,
you would say, well, that's a fairly low runtime engine, and maybe it is. I've seen that it can take at least a gallon or so of fuel before you even start to get a tint on some of these piston heads. So, who knows? Looks like there's some garbage there. Alright, so here's the all-important check, the valves. What do the valves look like?
Huh. Not bad at all, really. So, I think there's good and bad news here.
The good news is, this looks like a fairly low runtime engine, I'll say, just based on what I'm seeing here. Meaning, it doesn't have 3 or 4 gallons through it. It might have a gallon through it. That's the good news. The bad news is that however it was cared for or stored was horrendous, because it's just nasty looking on the outside. It's corroded and pitted, and it really looks gross. So unfortunately, this engine may be a good runner. It's never going to be a good looker, which is too bad, because I typically like the engines I keep for myself to look exceptionally nice, but we'll see. Maybe it would be a good candidate to be in a fully enclosed cowling so you don't see what it is that's in there. I'm not at all impressed with the outside of this engine.
Okay.
Nice and clean in there. Wow.
Look at that.
That thing looks brand new. Never seen one of these that had this polished looking finish before. They've all had kind of a I don't know, a black oxide type finish, but this one's got more of a polished finish on it. Looks really nice. Get this other cam follower out. This engine has a Woodruff key, so I'll have to make special note of that, make sure I don't lose that. Let's take one look at something here real quick. At top dead center, that key will either be at the top or the bottom. Okay, so the Woodruff key is at bottom with the piston at top dead center. That's also something good to note for timing. What'll be interesting is to see, if those of you that are familiar with OS engines, you know there's this hole here, and you have to get the cylinder out, the sleeve out, and then you usually have to extract the wrist pin through that hole to actually get the piston head out. It'll be interesting to see if I actually have to extract the wrist pin through this hole, or if they've actually made provisions in this later engine to more easily pull that. Oh god, that looked like that had a whole bunch of silicone on it too, so clearly I'm not the first person in this engine. Alright,
I don't know.
kind of nasty. Get my plastic spudger here and see if I can coax the sleeve out. Nope. I'm going to have to go heat this thing up before I'm going to be able to get that sleeve out.